Hey, Ghost.
This
This
is
is
wild,
this is Homie.
and this is Wildfire the woman.
And we're gonna read some stories.
Just for you, Ghost.
All right, Ghost. The title of this story is Ghost and Homie's Whimsical Quest. In a land far away, where the skies were always bright, a bright shade of pink and the trees hummed gentle tunes, lived a lofty little elf named Ghost. She had a reputation for being quick on her feet and even quicker with her mind. Her companion, a jolly dwarf named Homie, was known far and wide for his contagious laughter and hearty appetite.
One bright morning, as the dew sparkled on the grass and the sun peeked over the horizon, Ghost and Homie set out on a peculiar quest. Ghost had heard tales of the cutest Pokemon, a creature so adorable that it could melt the heart of even the grumpiest ogre. Homie, on the other hand, had recently taken an interest in keto recipes. His latest craving? A delicious keto-friendly chicken dish.
Ghost! Homie chuckled as they walked. You want to catch the cutest Pokemon, and I'm just trying to catch a good meal.
They both laughed as they made their way through the enchanted forest, where the leaves whispered secrets and the animals danced in the shadows.
After hours of walking, they arrived at the grand, ancient tree. The tree's trunk was wide enough to house a small village, and its branches stretched high into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. This was the home of Wildfire, the legendary wizard known to most as Woman the Wise. she is she was said to have knowledge of all things from mystical to the mundane.
As they approached, the tree's door creaked open on its own, and out stepped Wildfire. She was a tall, elegant figure with silver hair that flowed like a waterfall and eyes that twinkled with mischief. Ah, Ghost and Homie, you've come to see what wisdom from woman the wise there might be.
She greeted
Greeted.
them. Oh, she greeted them with a warm smile. Ghost bowed her head respectfully. I seek the knowledge to catch the cutest Pokemon, Woman the Wise. And I, Homie added with a grin, and am in search for a keto-friendly chicken recipe.
Two quests so different, yet both so grand. Let me lend you a helping hand.
She
She
waved
waved
her
her hair.
She waved her hand, and a shimmering portal appeared before them. The portal was filled with swirling colors and tiny sparks of magic.
Step through the portal, and you shall see the answers to your questions, both wild and free.
Ghost and Homie exchanged glances, and with a deep breath, stepped through the portal. On the other side, they found themselves in a vibrant meadow, filled with Pokemon of all shapes and sizes. In the center of the meadow sat a tiny, fluffy creature with big, round eyes and the most adorable little smile. It was the cutest Pokemon Ghost had ever seen.
My dear, the key to your quest is to approach with love and do your best, and you'll do your best. This little one seeks not a fight, but a friend who shines so bright.
Ghost knelt down, offering a Pokemon a gentle smile. The creature hopped into her arms, nuzzling her cheek. She had succeeded in her quest.
Meanwhile, Homie found himself in a rustic kitchen, where a large cookbook lay open on a wooden table. The pages were filled with recipes, and as he flipped through them, he found exactly what he was looking for: a keto-friendly chicken dish that made his mouth water just reading it. Homie, my dear friend, your quest is complete. With this recipe, your meal will be a treat. Cook with care and joy in your heart, and your dish will be a true work of art.
Homie beamed with satisfaction. Thank you, Woman the Wise.
The portal reappeared, and Ghost and Homie stepped back through it. returning to the enchanted forest where Wildfire awaited them. Your quests are done, and you've learned today that wisdom and joy always light the way. Now go, my friends, and share your delight, for the world is brighter with your light.
Ghost and Homie thanked Woman the Wise. The hearts full of gratitude, they set off their path back home, ready to share their new knowledge with their friends. The
The
end.
end.
The Great Bone Hunt. In a sleepy little town surrounded by rolling hills and winding rivers, lived three very special dogs. Wildfire, the old hound dog with a wise gaze and a nose that could sniff out anything. Ghost, a tiny yappy puppy who never stopped moving or barking. And Homie, a big happy pit bull with a wagging tail that could knock over a fence if he wasn't careful.
One crisp morning, as the sun painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, Ghost came barreling into the yard, barking her head off.
Wildfire! Homie! Guess what I heard? Ghost yipped, bouncing around them like a rubber ball. There's a bone out there. The biggest bone ever. We have to find it.
Wildfire, who had been napping in the shade, lifted her head slowly, her ears perked up at the mention of a bone. The biggest bone, you say? Well, now, that sounds like a mighty fine adventure.
Homie, who had been lazily chewing on a stick, dropped it in excitement. A bone big enough for all of us. Let's go. I'm ready.
And so the three dogs set off on their grand quest to find the biggest bone to chew on. They trotted out of town, through fields of tall grass, where crickets sang over the hills, where the wind whistled a merry tune.
Wildfire led the way, her nose to the ground, following the scent of something special. Ghost darted back and forth, barking at everything from butterflies to rustling leaves, while Homie kept pace with his happy grin, his tongue lolling out of his mouth.
As they walked, they encountered all sorts of creatures. A wise old owl perched on a branch gave them a clue. The biggest bone you seek is far and wide, across the river where secrets hide.
To the river! Ghost yapped, running ahead.
When they reached the river, they found it was too wide to cross easily. Wildfire sniffed around and found an old rickety bridge. We'll cross here, Wildfire said, but be careful, it's a bit wobbly.
Ghost, ever the brave pup, darted across first, her little legs moving so fast they were a blur. Homie followed, taking it slow, the bridge creaking under his weight. Wildfire brought up the rear, her steps steady and sure.
On the other side, the scent of something delicious filled the air. Wildfire's tail wagged slowly. We're getting close.
They continued on until they reached a clearing. In the center, half buried in the soft earth, was the biggest bone any of them had ever seen. It was massive, towering over even Homie. Look at that! Homie barked in awe.
Ghost was already jumping all over the bone, barking excitedly. We found it! We found it! Wildfire walked up to the bone, her eyes twinkling. This is it, the biggest bone to chew on. But it's too big for just one dog. We'll have to share.
And share they did. They spent the rest of the day chewing on the bone, taking turns and enjoying the spoils of their adventure. The sun dipped low, casting a golden glow over the clearing as the three dogs lay down beside their prize, content and happy.
We did good today, Wildfire murmured, closing her eyes.
Yeah, Homie agreed, his voice sleepy. We sure did.
Ghost, finally worn out, curled up between them, her little yaps replaced by soft snores.
And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the three dogs dreamed of more adventures with plenty of bones to find and chew together. The
The
end.
end.
The peculiar quest to tame a dragon. In a world where mountains touched the clouds and forests whispered secrets, there lived a trio of adventurers like no other. Leading them was Ghost, an old healer with a heart as warm as the sun, and a nature so caring that even the fiercest beast would lay down at her feet. And and by her side was Wildfire, a young knight with a sharp sword and an even sharper desire for glory. And completing their group was Homie, a rather naughty but humble ogre whose mischievous grin could either win over a crowd or cause a ruckus, depending on the day.
Their quest was one spoken of in hushed tones to defeat a dragon. But this was no ordinary dragon. This one was as peculiar as their mission. Instead of fire, it breathed bubbles. Instead of scales, it had a coat of feathers that shimmered in the sunlight. And its favorite pastime? Tying the town folks' laundry into knots.
Our task, Ghost explained as they walked along the cobblestone path, is not to slay this dragon, but to tame it, turn its mischief into something good.
Why not just fight it and be done with it? Wildfire asked, gripping the hilt of her sword. She had dreamed of defeating a dragon, earning her place in the annals of history as a true hero.
Because, Ghost replied with a gentle smile, not all battles are won with swords. Sometimes the most peculiar problems require the most peculiar solutions. Homie, who was busy balancing a rock on his nose, chimed in. So how do we tame a dragon that ties laundry into knots? Do we tie its feathers into bows?
Oh, not quite, homie. But we'll need to use our wits, not our weapons.
As they approached the dragon's lair, a massive cave adorned with colorful flags that the dragon had borrowed from a nearby village. Wildfire could hardly contain her excitement. She imagined herself charging in, sword raised high and emerging victorious. But Ghost had other plans.
Wildfire, my brave knight, Ghost said, placing a hand on her shoulder. I need you to be patient. This is not a battle of strength, but of heart.
Wildfire nodded, though she was still eager to prove herself.
They entered the cave cautiously. Inside, the dragon was fast asleep, nestled in a bed of stolen quilts and tangled laundry. It was a peculiar sight indeed.
Homie, who had a penchant for causing trouble, whispered, I could tickle its nose and see what happens.
That might not end well, Ghost whispered back, though she couldn't help but smile at the idea.
Instead, she approached the dragon slowly, her hands glowing with a soft, calming light. The dragon stirred, and its feathers ruffling as it opened one curious eye.
Hello there, Ghost said in a soothing voice. We've come not to fight, but to help.
The dragon blinked, clearly puzzled. It was used to knights charging in with swords drawn, not old healers offering kindness.
We know you've been causing trouble, Ghost continued, but we also know you're lonely. All those nights you tie, all those bubbles you blow, they're just your way of asking for attention, aren't they?
The dragon's other eye opened, and it let out a soft, almost bashful puff of bubbles.
Wildfire watched in awe as Ghost reached out and gently stroked the dragon's feathery snout. You don't need to cause trouble to be noticed, she said. You're special just the way you are. We can help you find a better way to use your gifts.
The dragon tilted its head as if considering her words. Then it let out a long, contented sigh, and the air was filled with bubbles that sparkled like stars. Homie, who had been watching quietly, suddenly had the idea, hey, what if we teach the dragon how to use those bubbles to entertain the village instead of causing mischief? Like, like a performance, it could blow bubbles into shapes and everyone would come to see.
Ghost beamed. That's a wonderful idea, homie.
With Wildfire's help, they spent the next few days working with the dragon, teaching it how to create dazzling bubble displays and intricate knots that were more like art than pranks. The dragon took to it quickly, and soon the villagers were flocking to the cave not in fear, but in excitement, eager to see the dragon's latest creations.
Wildfire, who had started out wanting to slay a dragon, found herself realizing that sometimes the greatest glory comes from doing good. Homie, who had once been known for causing trouble, was now known as the ogre who helped tame a dragon. And Ghost, with her endless compassion and wisdom, had shown them all that kindness and creativity could turn even the most peculiar problems into something beautiful.
And so, their peculiar quest was a success. The dragon, no longer lonely or misunderstood, became a star of the village, delighting everyone with its bubble filled performance. And the trio of adventurers, having completed their mission, set off to search for their next great adventure. The end.
End. Wildfire's wacky spell battle. In a crooked little cottage at the edge of a dark, twisted forest lived a witch named Wildfire. She wasn't your ordinary witch. Wildfire was known far and wide for her wild spells and even wilder hair, which seemed to crackle with magic all on its own. But as wild as she was, nothing could compare with the antics of Ghost and Homie, the two craziest troublemakers in the entire land.
Ghost, a mischievous young girl with a knack for causing chaos, and Homie, a jolly, lumbering giant who loved nothing more than a good prank, had made it their mission to drive Wildfire absolutely bonkers, and they were succeeding.
One day, after finding her cauldron filled with glitter and her broomstick tied in knots, both clearly the work of Ghost and Homie, Wildfire decided she'd had enough. That's it! She screeched, her eyes glowing with fiery determination. It's time to put an end to their nonsense, once and for all.
Wildfire grabbed her wand, muttering a series of strange incantations under her breath as she stormed out of the cottage, determined to track down the pesky duo.
She found them by the river, where Ghost was trying to see how many frogs she could fit into Homie's oversized boots, while Homie laughed so hard the ground shook. Gotcha now, Wildfire crackled, raising her wand high. Let's see how you like a taste of my magic. She pointed the wand at Ghost and shouted, Hocus pocus, bubble and brew, turn this girl into something new.
But instead of turning Ghost into a toad, as she planned, the spell backfired and turned Ghost hair into a bright purple and made it stand straight up like a porcupine's quills.
Ghost looked at her reflection in the river and burst out laughing. This is awesome! Thanks, Wildfire! Wildfire's face turned red with frustration. That wasn't supposed to happen, she grumbled. All right, Homie, let's see how you like a spell or two. She waved her wand at Homie, who was now busy trying to catch the frogs hopping around his boots. Abracadabra, zing and zap! Make this ogre take a nap.
But instead of falling asleep, Homie suddenly found himself dancing uncontrollably. His feet shuffled, his arms flailed, and he started doing the cha-cha right there by the riverbank. This is fun, Homie cheered as he twirled around, picking up Ghost and spinning her like a top.
Wildfire groaned. Why won't anything work? Determined to regain control, she tried one last spell. Eye of newt and tail of rat. Make them behave just like that.
But instead of making them behave, the spell caused a giant puff of smoke to explode from her wand, and when it cleared, Wildfire found herself wearing a ridiculous jester's hat, complete with jingling bells.
Ghost and Homie were laughing so hard they could barely breathe. Oh, you're the best, Wildfire! Ghost managed to gasp out between fits of giggles. Wildfire threw her hands up in the air. I give up! You two are impossible!
But as she looked at their happy, laughing faces, Wildfire couldn't help but smile a little herself. Maybe their antics weren't so bad after all.
All right, she sighed, letting her wand drop to her side. I guess I can put up with a little mischief, as long as you don't mess with my cauldron again.
Ghost and Homie grinned. Deal, they said in unison.
And so the trio spent the rest of the day together, with Wildfire casting silly spells that always seemed to go wrong, and Ghost and Homie causing more chaos than ever. But in the end, it was all in good fun, and Wildfire had to admit that maybe, just maybe, their crazy antics weren't so bad after all. The
The end.
end.